All right, everyone. Hey, we are live for the Block 3 of the Phys Ed Summit 4.0. I appreciate you joining us today. My name's Colin Brooks, and like I said, we're so happy that you could join us today for this physical education professional development opportunity. So we are again using Tozzle for the Phys Ed Summit. So not only can you view the presentation, but you can also find any presentation resources within this Tozzle and have real-time conversation. So I'm the moderator, and I will be helping moderate this conversation and asking or bringing your questions to our presenters as we go along. So feel free to ask any questions as we go along. And I'm personally really excited for this presentation, so we won't wait any further. I'm just going to hand it over to to the presenters here and let them introduce themselves and what today's topic is. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Kerstin, and I'm currently teaching in India, in Bangalore, for the second year. And this is my first PYP school. I am originally from Germany, and we're going to be talking about integrating swimming into the PYP and have a 6-week unit plan as an example, because from the feedback we've gathered so far, this is what most of the schools have, between like 6 to maybe 10 weeks. To plan for their swimming, if at all. So that's why we chose that as a timeline. And I'm presenting with my colleague from my school.
Hi, my name is Gilbert Kaburu. I am originally from Uganda. This is my second PYP school. I originally taught at the International School of Uganda, and I'm my second year here at Stonehill in India. And I'm glad to be here.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you like?
That's great, Gilbert and Kirsten. Thanks so much. So you both feel free to just start your presentation.
Okay. If I started, will you see it already now? Or no, I need to share my screen, right?
That's correct. So look on the left side of your screen, and you're going to see a green button with an arrow.
Entire screen, okay. Here we go.
We are good to go.
Okay. So, like we just said, it will be an integration of swimming into the PYP. And our goal today is to introduce this 6-week unit plan. And we want to give examples and share best practice and some assessments that we do. And discuss how inquiry-based learning can look like in swimming. And of course, we're happy to answer questions if Colin can direct them at us. And also at the end of the presentation, like in the Google Slides, you can also add some questions. And we hope to continue the conversation on Twitter, of course, after the summit. So in here, I've shared the slides on the Tozzle. So in here you could put in your name and your Twitter handle. So we already have that. And it would be great if some of you could do that. Let me know if it doesn't work. It should work because that's what I've set the sharing settings to. And then you can also put some questions here if you already have any or are specifically interested in some points. Then feel free to add those questions here. And yeah. So briefly to introduce our own school. So we teach at Stonehill International School in Bangalore, which is in the south of India. We teach swimming in the primary to all students from pre-kindergarten to grade 5. That's, in our case, we call it P1 to P8. So they're between 3 and 11 years old. And we're lucky enough to have 60 minutes per week with all of the students. You have 2 pools. One is a 25-meter pool, and the other one is a smaller learn-to-swim pool. And we have all the time, we have 1 lifeguard on duty. And then usually it's always teaching myself and Gilbert together. And then for some of the classes, we also have a teaching assistant. So it's between 2 to 3 teachers plus the lifeguard. And the topics we cover because we have the whole year, of course, all the 4 strokes. And then we also put in, we have a life-saving unit and then of course different games, and we play water polo and some other ball games, and a lot of times we also work with relays. And in regards to the events, we have quite a few events by now. So we started the year out this year with a swimathon as a fundraiser, and then we had external swimming gala where we invited local schools from Bangalore, and just recently in January we had a relay gala, and so where all the kids would just swim relays, no individual races. And then we're going to have 2 more swim meets this year. One is just an inter-house gala, and then another one where we invite external schools. Yeah.
The question is, you might have some questions. You might be coming from different places. Some of you might be conversant with swimming, but need to integrate the PYP, or the other way around. So we are going to try as much as possible to answer your questions as best we can. Kerstin, can you please move that?
Sorry.
Okay, so then the question is, why swimming? Why are swimming programs becoming more common in school programs? And in a PYP setting, one of our best ways to justify this is talking about drowning and the increasing number of drowning, and especially here in India. When we were inquiring into the unit, we found that India is one of the red flag zones. We have the largest, one of the most prevalent rates of drowning in the world. Kerstin, can you please move that? And so we covered mostly personal safety. We talk about students being able to survive, in the water, being able to rescue others, being able to keep healthy and physically fit, but also, the importance of swimming for the fun of it. So in terms of designing our unit, and we'll go more into details about our units, we initially ran swimming as something that was a separate activity, but this year we are continuously integrating the PYP into swimming. And that's why one of the reasons why we are very excited about sharing our experiences with our colleagues. And so in case you wanted to have a 6-week plan, this is taken right out of the PSPE. Attention to technique and regular practice can improve water safety and effectiveness of movements. We added up the water safety into effectiveness of movement. So we're trying to combine 2 conceptual ideas. And later we will show in more detail how we connect the different ideas into a unit plan. So if we break it down in terms of the concepts, attention to technique and regular practice, we have tried to break down where, responsibility, for example, is very much linked to safety, for students to understand their responsibility as users of the pool. In terms of form, looking at the pool safety guidelines, but also looking at the different strokes, backstroke and freestyle, and looking at what are the major components that make a good freestyle or backstroke technique. And also for the connection, we're trying to get students to see how backstroke and freestyle are connected, but also how they are connected to other ideas in different areas, so that they can see how these skills and techniques can be transferred.
Okay, I think that's me again. Before we go further into the unit plan itself, we wanted to briefly talk about some other things that we do in case you're really new to swimming. So in the beginning, we do that in the beginning of the year. In your case, that might be then in the beginning of the unit. We, of course, talk about water safety. And yeah, the picture you can see here is just a screenshot of a fun water safety video. I've shared the links to various kinds of videos also in the Tozzle. So there's another Google Doc with all the links. And of course, we talk about behavior in and around the pool together with the kids. First, usually we do that in the classroom before we walk them up to the pool, and then we do it there again and about what to bring and, yeah, just general things. And I think that's good again.
We use a lot of visuals, a lot of visual. We have areas in the pool where we have both celebrating students' work, but also them to be able to see what proper breaststroke or proper backstroke. And these are just samples that we picked out. When we have swimming competitions or swim shows, we take a lot of pictures and we post them, and the students enjoy looking at it. So this is one of the ways we kind of promote swimming, but we also celebrate learning and motivate the swimmers to think about what they're doing and how they can get better.
And then, of course, technology integration also happens in some ways in swimming. So again, here is a couple of things that you can look into. We're not going to specifically talk about the apps and how to use them today, because first and foremost, it's about the teaching and connecting with the kids. But these are just some things that we might use also for assessment, which we'll briefly talk about later. And yeah, there's a couple of things, especially for younger kids, like the Duck Learns to Swim book and also the Everyday Lifesaver, which is kind of like a game as well. So please feel free to look at these. They work really well for us. One of the apps we try to use often, and we would like to use it a little bit more often to share it also online, but the internet doesn't work so well at our pool, is one that's called BAM Video Delay. And here you can see when they were practicing for the starts, and some of you might already know it. It's has been out on the market for quite some time, but it's really convenient if you want to film the students and it has a time delay then set in, and so they can do their dive or even a stroke or whatever they're practicing and then get out of the water, and depending on the time you've set it to or the screens you've set it to, they can watch it about up to 4 times, and yeah, it's really helpful for them to get immediate feedback. Okay. Another thing, that's you, Gilbert. Sorry.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Another thing we often use are YouTube videos. So I've created my own channel, not with videos I've done myself, but I've just created a playlist. So in this case, we use professional swimmers, of course, to show how the perfect stroke would look like. And we use it sometimes as an introduction, but also during the unit, maybe if someone is struggling particularly, and sometimes you also don't have a student who can showcase the perfect technique yet. So in that case, it's really helpful if you can show them videos. And then sometimes we also share them with them on their Google Classrooms, and they have to watch them as a homework or like before the session or just as a preparation for the next lesson. And
okay.
Again, Gilbert, yeah.
Yeah, so you might be sitting there and wondering, what are we talking about? And maybe what we need to do is provide a sample of a unit plan that we have come up with based on the backstroke and freestyle unit, and
okay.
walk you through. And then you can ask questions later.
Yeah. Do you want to continue?
Yeah. So this is generally a draft of one of our unit plans, and we have tried to, as much as possible, integrate the PYP. We went for the concepts. We chose form, connection, responsibility, and causation. Now you don't have to choose all those. You can just choose one. In terms of the lines of inquiry, we talked about the importance of water safety, the connections between backstroke and freestyle techniques, and implicitly the connections between those and the other things that they are learning, and also how to improve swimming technique. Our central idea, like we said before, is attention to technique, and regular practice can improve water safety and effectiveness of movements. And our learning outcomes are also drawn from our PSPE, which we've shared as part of the resources. We have our provocations there that are directly linked to the PYP elements. And for our assessments, we have self-assessment. This we get students to take pictures or videos of themselves and talk through or write what they learned, or where they think they are at the moment with the technique. We also have use these as portfolio reflections. So they use the pictures or the videos. They talk about what they have learned, you know, the areas of growth, what they really enjoyed and why. They talk about what they still need to do to get better. And in these reflections, they also talk about the learner profiles that were important in helping them enhance their own learning. We also take personal best times of students at the beginning and at the end for those who can swim. So this is always useful for us because it gives them a visual way to see their own, to track their own progress. Kerstin?
Yeah. And so, like I said before, we've shared that. I can hear myself now.
Yeah, they'll
We've
just
shared that.
little bit of echo. It'll go away here in a second.
Okay. So we've shared this plan with you. So as you can see, we've added a couple of things to break it down, how the kids might learn best. And down here you can see the different transdisciplinary skills and the learner profiles we have included. And throughout the unit, what we've learned is, if we go all the way down, that for us it was really important that the students could follow the safety guidelines and that they were able to understand it, and they even were able to come up with their own ideas about that. And another thing we do a lot is that we let them work in groups, not only to learn from each other, but also they become the group leader, and they would come up with their own exercises after we've introduced them. So the kids would know, okay, one of the students just decides what is the plan that they're doing today, and they would then after that share it with the whole group. And we've experienced that this really helped for the learning as a whole group together, because they can just share their own best practice. And we do that with diving as well as with the swimming. And yes, the next point. Another thing we often do is we record the questions the students ask, and then sometimes we let them write down on Post-its, and we would maybe only talk about them the next lesson or use them as a lesson starter. And as you can see, they have all sorts of questions that we've written down here as a few examples. Of course, throughout the year there will be way more. And since Gilbert and I have started at the school, what we've seen is really a huge progression from all the skills that the students learned. And we can see this especially because a lot of them have joined the after-school swimming program, and also in the first year, quite a few of them were hesitant to take part in the swimming galas or when we presented something to their parents, but because they have a lot more chance to practice now and they've gained so much more confidence, we really don't face any more trouble with kids that don't want to swim, because they just feel so much more safer in the environment.
Quick question just from me. So, as far as how long did it take before the students started feeling really comfortable within the pool? I mean, you've got such a great plan set up here. And you can tell that the students are definitely going to feel successful and safe within this environment. What was your thoughts on how long it took them before they started to feel really comfortable and ready to go?
It took a while. It took, first of all, getting to know us and getting to understand more about the swimming. Now, what we found out before we moved here is that the person who did the swimming before was more of a coach, just did laps. All the kids did. It was very teacher-directed, and all they did was laps. So when we came in and we tried to do some kind of assessment of the students, they didn't even know what the strokes are called. They didn't know what freestyle, backstroke. They all knew freestyle, but even breaststroke, they would call it frog stroke. So it was a little difficult, and partly, part of the reason why it was difficult was because the water was a little colder, and we've worked to make sure the water is warmer. But also they didn't know us. that much. So it took us about maybe 6 months for them to get to really begin to like swimming. We hardly get much of absent, I can't swim because, making all sorts of excuses. Now they genuinely want to swim. And when we miss a class because of some other engagements, the kids are really sad. And if they're if there are going to be activities organized, they try as much as possible not to do away with the PE or swimming class for the students. So that really shows us that the kids are really enjoying themselves.
That's great. That's just a good reminder of how important, developing those relationships are, especially in a setting where students, all settings, but in a setting where students have to be big risk takers.
Yeah. And I mean, also because we are mainly with the younger grades, we're 3 teachers, and then with the grade 4 and grade 8, it's usually just me and Gilbert. But because we are more than one teacher, it also gives us the chance that we can teach one-on-one. So of course, as in every international school, we get in students throughout the year. So our group might already be doing butterfly, and we get a new student who has never swum before. So it's of course really good that we can then just get in the pool with them ourselves and work with them, maybe first in the shallow pool and then the big pool. And sometimes we do that with a couple of students, depending on their level. And then also, of course, what's really helpful, that even when they're struggling within the unit and maybe they can already do most of the exercises the others do, but you can take them out and just do the one-on-one practice with them. So that's the way we teach. Yes, Gilbert?
And we also sometimes have a student who's not swimming, or one who is swimming on the other side. We get them to go and work one-on-one with another student, and we're continuously monitoring and we're continuously asking questions, because that way we are able to understand their understanding. We're able to gauge their understanding of what we're trying to cover.
Great. Thanks, guys. That was great.
Is there already some kind of questions, other questions?
You keep going away, and I'll let you know.
Okay. So from the presentation, let me see.
Kerstin, can you please share our PSPE?
Yes, of course.
Which is work in progress. So we've tried to come up with a PSPE for both PE and swimming. Now, most of the conceptual the concepts are drawn from the PSPE, the IB PSPE. But in terms of the learning outcomes, we drew a lot from the Australian South Wales PE curriculum, because they're pretty much linked to the PYP. And then for the aquatics, we pretty much made up our own aquatics learning outcomes based on where we are and where we want to go. Our PSPE is quite unique, even if it's in draft form, that on top of instead of having the units to drive the PSPE, it's the PSPE that's driving the unit. And also we have aquatics. Now, we went through a lot of talking through, should we have aquatics as a separate place? But then we realized that we are a unique school and we take it very seriously. And because we do it every day, every class in the PYP has an aquatics lesson once a week, we thought we should make a separate area for aquatics. Now, if your school is only doing it for 6 weeks, absolutely you don't have to have a separate place for swimming. You can integrate the learning outcomes from different areas into swimming. For example, if you go to movement and composition, there are learning outcomes in there that you can transfer into. If you're not just doing a 6-week lesson plan, but you also want to do, for example, synchronized swimming, you can pull something from there and have a unit.
Yeah. And the way we've structured it is, again, you can see, because we call them P1 to P8, which would then be pre-kindergarten for P1, and then P8 is grade 5. And the way we structured this is that we first started with the life-saving skills that we implement for all the classes. And after that is the dives and the different strokes So we usually start with freestyle. That's what we've done last year. We've because we were new to the school and we first had to assess, and like Gilbert explained before, we just reorganized the way we taught swimming a little bit, and it was how it was taught before at our school. So the way we started last year is we started out with freestyle and then went into backstroke, butterfly, and last, because it's usually the most complicated stroke for the kids. We did breaststroke, and then in between we broke it up again with some water polo or some really basic life-saving skills. We went more into this year. And another plan of ours is that our PE units, they're spread out through the year. So currently, for example, we're just starting with our striking and fielding unit, and the one after that is movement and composition. And so, because we have the whole year, we want to incorporate, at least with the older classes, some synchronized swimming routines parallel to our movement and composition unit in the normal PE classes, which we also teach 3 lessons a week for grade 1 to grade 5, and each of the lessons are again 60 minutes. So altogether we have 4 lessons of physical education a week for all the grade levels, grade 1 to grade 5. Okay.
Quick question. I just had a question for you. So, besides swimming, do you teach other physical education classes on top of this?
Yes, we have 3 physical education classes. Initially, we had 2. So this year we have 3 physical education classes and then swimming. So it's for 4 classes every week.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and that's also divided between Gilbert, myself, and then we have another teacher. She's not teaching swimming, but she's teaching the pre-kindergarten and also some of the older students. So yeah, that's how it's divided up. And then sometimes we also have a teaching assistant there. That's what I meant before. Maybe it was some misunderstanding that altogether it's the 4 classes. So altogether we have 240 minutes of physical education each week. So yeah, we're really lucky in that way. Okay. Another thing we're working with is, nope, sorry. Where is it? I must have closed it. I'm sorry. Those are the links. Where do I find it the quickest?
What are you?
I'm looking for the, is it the PYP practices? Yes. So Gilbert, I think you also wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk briefly about the PYP, the philosophy, the theoretical background of the PYP, and how it connects, how we're trying to link it up with swimming. And one of the things that making the PYP happen talks about is that the PYP is a social constructivist philosophical has a social constructivist philosophical underpinning, and what it is essentially is having students construct their own knowledge and having students express their prior knowledge, and then building on the new knowledge and new information and new skills to come up with more constructions of knowledge or action. And so we wanted to talk briefly about, in terms of what the PYP says about planning, teaching, and assessing, and the different things that they have more emphasis on and less emphasis. And this is one of the things that we found very useful. The slide that is up that talks about, for example, during planning, increase the emphasis on planning collaboratively using an agreed system and the PYP planner where appropriate, and decrease the emphasis on planning in isolation from other teachers. So this year for our school, we're now having once a week, we have planning meetings where we sit down with all the homeroom and other specialist teachers in music, in art, and then we plan through to see how we can link together. Second one is planning based on agreed student learning outcomes and in context of coherent school-wide programs, and less emphasis on planning disconnected from the curriculum. Again, since we are building our PSPE this year for the first time, we are trying as much as possible to link up directly from our PSPE and have those outcomes clearly articulated, and also the students to be aware of what they are working towards. So this document has been very useful. If you haven't used it yet, this is something you need to have every time when you're doing your planning. The other document is the PYP Standard C that talks about teaching and learning and the different checklists that you can use when you're doing that.
So I've got a quick question for you coming from the back channel. So as far as your curriculum, does it look, what does it look like for pre-K students?
Okay, for the pre-K students, of course, the youngest are 3 years old that we get at our school, and so we really work a long time because most of them are still not used to the water. We really have so far had a few students who are really comfortable in the water, not so many, and also even the shallow pool that we have is, for the little ones, it's quite deep. So some of them in the beginning, when we start out the year, they're struggling a little bit, like they're really just, it goes up to their neck. So what we really do in the beginning is really just water confidence. Like we have a lot of toys, we give them a lot of free time, and then while they're playing with each other, we do a lot of one-on-one work with them. So we would try to make them blow bubbles, like really the basic things, blow bubbles, put their head underwater. We play a lot of games with the diving rings, and one of the favorite games that you might know is Stuck in the Mud, but we play it in the water, where one of the kids would, of course, we can only play that once they're comfortable to submerge themselves underwater. So where one of the kids would stand in the water and spread their legs, and the other one, once it has been tagged, it stands still and spreads their legs, and then the other one has to dive through the legs, and then they can join the game again. And it's really, for the kindergarten kids, it's their favorite game.
So we make lots of improvisations. So we might improvise and say, if someone is underwater, you cannot tag them, or if someone is swimming on their back, you can't tag them, just to make sure that we are able to emphasize the skills. But the most important thing that we do, not just for the pre-K, but all through the school when students first come in, is get them to be comfortable underwater, to completely be comfortable submerging, and we teach them how to blow bubbles. And we find that is, even among the good swimmers, that is one of the skills that helps them be comfortable. And it makes it much harder for them to be, they don't get much tired very easily if they're able to breathe in and out, without much difficulty. So we focus on submerging and also being able to blow bubbles.
And another thing that has helped tremendously was that they feel more secure in the water, that as soon as they're able to kick a little bit and work with a kickboard, we usually give them flippers. And then we also take them to the big pool. Well, we always call it the big pool, to the shallow end of the 25-meter pool. That's where we take them, and they would work with a pool noodle and a kickboard, and most of the time they would wear flippers. And just to also give them the chance to see that they don't need to be afraid of the deep water, because they already have some skills, which they can already swim. So not necessarily, of course, for the whole width of the pool, but that's the way we do it. Is we just have 2 to 3 people in the water then, and just let them swim shorter distances, like maybe even in the beginning just 2 meters, 2 meters, 3 meters, get out by the side and then walk back and jump back in or slide back in, whatever they feel comfortable with at that time. And then once they progress, as soon as they feel more comfortable, there's a variety of things that we do in the pool, sometimes with lane ropes and a lot of times also without. Most of the time with the younger kids, we would have them swimming using the widths when we do skills with them or exercises. And sometimes also we have them use the whole pool and have maybe one swimmer who's in the front, and the others are going to follow them like in a line, but they can choose where they're going. And in between, we would just give them different tasks they have to do.
Great, thanks. Awesome answer to the question.
Um, yeah. From the presentation, what else we wanted to share was the rescue skills that we've been working on. So in here you can see mainly our grade 4 and grade 5 students. So this year we've not worked yet with, because we did it as a unit, we did it the first time this year, so we haven't worked with clothing or them rescuing someone from the water and bringing them to the side, but what we've started with are different floats, like you can see them in one of the pictures here. They're doing the mushroom float, and then we've worked on the star float, and we've done a lot with threading the water. And the floats we've practiced even with the kindergarten kids, not in the deep pool, but in the shallow pool, in the children's pool. And then treading the water, then you can see they had to do different, we call them throwing rescues. So we would use the lifeguard buoy, we would use pool noodles, like again in the beginning of before we did it, we had a discussion with the kids, and also put out some stuff in the pool so they could see what we have, but they also came up with, we could use a t-shirt, and just if there's nothing there, because of course we tried to emphasize that if it's not necessarily, because in the beginning they all said, oh yeah, I can jump in, because we can swim, we can jump into the pool and go and rescue them, we can help them. And then of course we put a lot of emphasis on that that's not always necessary, and that also their own safety should always come first.
Okay, I see that somebody is asking how many students do they have for one teacher in case they're all beginners. In classes where we have lots of beginners, oftentimes we will group the students according to the need, or sometimes we'll group them according to their ability. So we all start warm-up activities in the same place. So for instance, we could have 20 students, and out of the 20 students, maybe 8. Sometimes, depending on how you define a beginner, you could have maybe 2 of them who can do a lot more than the others. So either we might just focus specifically on those who are able to blow bubbles, and those are able to work in one group with one teacher, and those who are still working on bubbles to work with one teacher if we're only 2. Sometimes we'll group them according to those who are able to swim in the big pool, the deep end, irrespective of where they are in terms of their stroke work, and those who have not swum there before. Sometimes we will even have those who are able to do that particular skill, irrespective of their age group, teaching their peers how to do that specific activity, while the teacher takes those who actually need more work. And sometimes we have students who don't even want to get into the water, who are still very scared. So then the teacher will have, one of the teachers can work with those students. And what we try and do is we set up relationships where there's one teacher working with the students for a sustained amount of a number of weeks, so that the student can become more comfortable with the teacher. And we find that like varying the grouping strategies usually helps a lot, and also setting up relationships with students so that you can know where they are, what they are like, and push the boundaries in a safe and secure manner.
Yeah. And another thing we wanted to talk about, we've mentioned it a little bit before, that a lot of times, in this case, the leading student, so to say, in this picture was the student in the middle, and we have them working in the small pool here with students that were not so comfortable yet of working in the big pool, and so we just break it up and put them into those groups and let them work together. And especially sometimes it also helps when the students are new to the school and their English level is not that well, and then so we sometimes group them depending on the language they speak. We sometimes group them depending on the ability. So we might have students in one group that all are at the same ability level, and most of the times, but now we work with mixed ability groups, so, and also mixed gender groups, so that really they can learn from each other. And then here are a couple of things from the assessment that we do. Gilbert.
Yeah, we used this a lot last year before we moved into the PYP, integrating deeply the PYP. And what we tried to do was to come up with outcomes and how we're going to assess the outcomes, and also how we're going to display the students' work. So this was something that was useful last year. And like we said at the beginning, because we are trying to teach more conceptually than teaching skills, as the independent, we are trying to now integrate the PYP and swimming together. So in this one, you'd see the learning outcomes for P4, P5, P6, P7, and P8 in the different swimming techniques. And this might be something you find useful. And the reason why we did this last year, like we said, was when we assessed the students, we found that the fundamental skills were lacking. They didn't have the fundamental skills for swimming. And if they're doing freestyle, they didn't understand, they couldn't, use a streamline. They couldn't even explain why they were swimming the way they do. Some of them had skills, but they didn't have the understanding of why and how. They knew the what. And so we thought that first, giving them the fundamental skills and then giving them some kind of foundation and then continuing from there this year has worked really well. And so somebody might be in a school where they're just introducing swimming for the first time, and he's saying, how can I integrate the PYP when kids can't even swim? I think it's possible, and with hindsight, I think we could have done things differently, but having the fundamental swimming skills was important as a foundation from which to build. Because now when we talk about working in groups, our biggest focus then becomes with cooperation. How do you work together? How do you compromise? How do you communicate with each other? How do you show empathy for each other and things like that? And so we are now able to go at a higher level because last year we did a lot of focusing on this. And we still have new students. Our school is a small school. We have people coming and going, but we feel like the people who are here last year, for the most part, are able to provide that foundation for those who are not. And when we work in groups, it's much easier.
A question for both of you. So, if someone is starting a swimming program, what are your biggest words of advice for individuals? I know we've been talking about reflecting on what you've done in your units in the past, but yeah, what would be your overarching advice to these individuals?
Kerstin, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I think it's really like for the kids. Sometimes it's learning and doing. Of course, they need to prepare. And one thing that's a document that's also really helpful, especially to beginners, is by the American Red Cross Association. I think it's called. I've also linked that in. It comes a little bit later, and they have a really good document, and there's quite a few good books out there. And then also there's a lot of the videos that will really help, and you can see not just examples from elite swimmers, but also videos where it's demonstrated what you can do, and it's explained, and how you would do it with the kids. Like if you have really the toddler swimming, like the P3 and the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old, how you would hold them in the water, how you can establish this connection that they trust you. So I would advise, especially in swimming, and if you might not be such a comfortable swimmer yourself, or it might not be your favorite environment, this I think is really helpful to practice this before you even start doing it with the kids.
My advice would be, one, that have a relationship with your students, set up relationships where they can trust you. Two, go through the safety guidelines at the beginning, just so that the students are aware that swimming is a fun place, and sometimes it can be a lot of fun, but if you need to be safe, and safety comes first. So a good awareness of pool safety is important. The third thing is try to stay away, be patient, try to stay away from having students do lots of laps. I know one of my mentors in swimming always said yardage is garbage. And so just having kids swim up and down without knowing the reason why sometimes can have a detrimental effect. And for some students works well, but we find that the students who, if swimming becomes something mandatory, then the swimmers are not trying to be the best swimmers. Most of them are just want to learn how to swim, learn how to save other people, and just learn to be in the water. So try not to set a goal, to have them be the, competitive long distance swimmers, because that breaks them down. When they get tired of swimming up and down, usually that's when you get lots of students pulling out and withdrawing. The last one is just understanding that kids swim for different reasons. Kids come to swim for different reasons. And the social aspect of swimming, the social aspect of learning, and in terms of constructivism and the PYP, that learning is socially constructed. Try and avoid you always being the person talking to the kids, and give them opportunities for them to share their learning and to interact with each other. That is what I would advise.
That's great. Thanks to you both. We have about 4 more minutes, so if you have things, you can just continue presenting.
4 minutes, you said?
Yeah, about 4 more minutes,
Yeah.
or if you have more, you can go ahead and do a little bit more for sure.
Okay. So here's some of the books that I just spoke about, the Swimming and Water Safety by the American Red Cross over here. And then here is the best swimming drills. It's a little bit of a funny link, but it seems to work, and it's a PDF online. And then a book we work with a lot is also the swimming drill book. And then this again is especially good for younger swimmers, which could also be used in the homeroom. I mean, that's what we also try to do. Of course, if we swim with and have the swimming lessons with the younger kids from kindergarten, we not continuously showing them water videos and safety videos, but especially in the beginning, we ask our homeroom teachers if they maybe in the morning or after recess, when they try to gather them, if they maybe show them one of those 4 or 5 minute videos, and then they also talk with the kids about it, as well as we do then again in the lesson. And again, there's a few links, and in the end, as a reflection, what we would like you to ask is use this 3-to-1 step reflection, ideas that you want to remember, and 2 would be connections that you've made to the program you teach, because I'm sure we not only have listeners who have not taught swimming before, we also have listeners that are well-experienced teachers. And then if you have any further questions you might want to ask and didn't have the chance, we didn't have the chance to answer it, so you could still share them on the back channel right now, and if not, later on, using the Twitter handles PYP Swimming and Visit Summit, and then we can continue to talk about these things. And yeah, basically, as we're almost at the end, we would like to thank the Physiology team for giving us the chance to present today. And yes, thank you for tuning in and listening. And of course, if there's any more questions, as we still have a few minutes, we're ready to answer.
Gilbert, do you have anything to add?
No, yeah. I think the last thing I can add is that just make sure if someone is starting swimming and trying to integrate it into the PYP, they just have to read. One of the things that would be useful is understand the theory behind the PYP, which is constructivism, social constructivism, that always, first of all, try and find out what the students already know, the prior knowledge, and then provide experiences that help students to link the new knowledge and then come up with something, something bigger, and always have a balance. To have a balance between skills, between knowledge, understanding, action. So it's not just about skills. Skills are important, and of course it looks very good when the students are swimming, they're able to swim well. But I think that the difference between other programs and the PYP is that it has to be a holistic experience for all students. And so they have to be able to understand not just what they need to do, but also how and why, and how all that links up to other ideas. That's very important. That's the biggest thing that I've learned from integrating swimming into the PYP.
Awesome, thanks. And I don't see any new questions up there, but Kerstin, do you have anything to add as well?
No, I think no, I think Gilbert has made a good point here at the end, and that I think it really helps if you don't have to do it on your own. I think that Gilbert and I had the chance to work together on this and learn from each other. We both come from a swimming background, so that might have made some of the things easier, but it really helps if you can do it in a team, and because it's always a team effort, and if you can also have a teaching buddy, I think it has helped us a lot, and we've learned from each other, and we still continue to do so, and yeah, it's been a good ride so far here for us, and yeah.
Hey, well, thanks. I really appreciate it, and I know that our viewers out there really appreciate your time as well and your expertise, and for all of you out there, don't forget, and within the TOSL, Gilbert and Kerstin have been kind enough to share all of their resources, so you can scroll down on the TOSL and you can see all of their uploaded Google files and folders that share their unit plan and everything else. So we really appreciate that, and if you have further questions, definitely look to contact them within that back channel on TOSL as well as on Twitter. It was a good place to do that, and please take the time at the bottom of the conference program to fill out the conference survey. We appreciate your time, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the Phys Ed Summit. So thanks, Gilbert. Thanks, Kerstin.
Thank you.
Thank you.